Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Your Property Podcast. My name is Michelle Cairns from YPN, and today we've got with us a very special guest, Sharon Lechter. Hi, Sharon, how are you?
Fantastic, Michelle. Delighted to be with you.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure. For those of you who don't know Sharon, I'll just give you a brief introduction. She is an entrepreneur, a speaker, New York Times best-selling author and business mentor, but she's probably most well known for her co-authoring the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, along with 14 other books in the Rich Dad series, and was the CEO of Rich Dad Company for over 10 years. There's a lot more to be said for what all the different experience you've had over many years, but I think there's one thing that's missing from your bio, and that is about the life-changing effect you have had on people, and the book, everything that you have written about, and everything you stand for. And I would just like to personally say thank you for changing my life. You've changed the principles in the book, and everything that it stands for has changed the way that I think about business, about money, about life. And I've got the cash flow game just behind me here, because I actually met my life partner this sounds very geeky, but like a networking event where people brought the cash flow games, and I met him there. So it just goes to show you that being around like-minded people who are interested in the same things, and just the ripple effect of the book and what you've done has changed my life. So many people I know, and it's very. I'm not even sure how well you kind of understand the ripple effect in the property industry in the UK, because it's so common to say, "How did you get started in property?" And so many people say, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So it's incredible for me to be here with you today, and to get to personally thank you for what you've done with the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book and the series, and obviously alongside Robert Kiyosaki. So there you go. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. You definitely just made my day, my week, my month. I appreciate it. But remember, people have come up to me a lot and say, you changed my life. I go, well, wait a minute. I wrote something that inspired you to change your life. So I want you to own the fact that you read it, you were inspired, and then you took action. Because a lot of people read it and don't take action. So stand in your own power, be proud of yourself. And I'm just honored that something that I've written has inspired you to focus on building assets in your life. And I'm delighted to find out that it resulted in you finding your partner. That's fabulous.
I know, partner and a baby, and a new life with the principles that we've applied, and we live by them every day. So it really shaped everything we do. But you're right, it is there's an element of putting it into practice and being brave, and doing things differently than what society has always told us to do. And for me, it was a real aha moment, not just an aha moment, but I thought, how have I got to this age where I've gone my whole life and I've not understood that there are other ways of making money other than the day job? And Sharon, you must have spoken about this so many times over the years. And I see I've had to look at your social media as well, and you're on Instagram doing your videos still to this day. How do you stay as enthused as you are about it now as you did back then, and still talking about the same concepts, rather than it was something that you did a while ago and life's moved on?
Well, with my work with Napoleon Hill Foundation, he talks about definite purpose, and that's really, it was when back in December of 1992, my oldest son had got to college and came home into credit card debt, that I realized I was really mad at him, even more mad at myself. And I said, somebody's got to do something about this. So that's really when I dedicated the rest of my career to financial literacy, financial education. And we are still not teaching kids about money in school. So I'm as passionate about it today as I was when I first started. And I had the blessing of being raised in a home where we talked about assets. We talked about entrepreneurship. We talked about understanding passive income. And it wasn't until I got out into the real world that I realized so few people understand money and the momentum of money, because we're all taught to exchange time for money, to work hard at a job. And we have to expand our mindset to understand that there's only so much hours in a day or so many days in the week. So the amount of money you can make that check that determines your financial future. So with every dollar that comes in, invested in buying, building, creating income producing assets, that's how you end up creating wealth. And that's how you get your time back, because the assets work for you, so you don't have to.
Well, I ended up going down the avenue of investing in property, and that led to, getting that cash flow in every month, which bought back my time. And interesting you say about teaching, because when I read that book, I was a teacher. So I taught French and Spanish in secondary, high school, and I read it and I became evangelical about it, right? So I was like, everyone needs to read this, even the kids. So I had my class of 11 to 12-year-olds. And I said, guys, you need to read this. Nobody ever gave it to me when I was your age. You need to read it. And I didn't even know whether it was at their level where they could understand it. Well, it was. So I had a bunch of students who were reading it. And I remember talking about this to the class. And there was one girl who put her hand up and said, well, Miss, if this is so great and, and you can, have a different life, if you like, why doesn't everyone do it? And you know what? I thought, wow, what a question. Because I just thought, I didn't even know where to start with the answer, because they're too busy, because they don't believe in it. Like, what do you think? What's your answer to that question?
Well, it's because so many people end up with a scarcity mindset, because money has a lot of emotion behind it. So you grow up hearing negative things about money, like money doesn't grow on trees, pinch your pennies, save for a rainy day, we can't afford it. And so as a youngster, you're hearing money negative, money negative, money negative. So you develop this scarcity mindset, and it's in your subconscious. And it impacts your entire life until you deal with the mindset. That's why I don't just teach money principles, I teach mindset changes. And it's very important to understand that if you can adjust your mindset from scarcity to abundance, you're going to live a much happier and more fulfilling life. The problem is people don't pay attention to that. So they're afraid they're never going to have enough money. And then when they actually get some money, that scarcity mindset is going to make them afraid they're going to lose it. And guess what? They lose it, because they've never addressed the root of the problem, and that is the scarcity mindset. And so that's why a lot of people will read the book and not take action, because that scarcity mindset has a hold of them. And the issue is to really become the CEO of your life, take action towards your own personal financial health.
Oh, see, we've got people who fall into the camp of they are just not aware. They haven't, like you say, grown up in a family where this is the norm, and they're not aware of other ways of thinking about money and life and jobs, etc., and business. And then there's the people who do come across it through having read the books or come across these ideas in one way, but that it's their mindset that stops them. And then there are people who, okay, they're hungry, they've got the mindset, they're keen to do it, and then it's around the skill set in implementing it. If you kind of had to put a percentage around the people who are stopped by their mindset, just the way they're thinking about things rather than the implementation, where would you put those two people?
Well, in my first book with the Napoleon Hill Foundation, it's called 3 Feet from Gold. I shared a personal success equation, Michelle, and I think this kind of answers your question, because everybody's success formula is different. But it's P plus T, meaning your passion plus your talent. All right. So my passion actually came from anger. I was mad we were teaching kids about money in school. My talent was years as an accountant, years in publishing. And most of us stop there thinking we have to do everything on our own. That's why a lot of people don't take action, because they don't have the skills. But true success comes from combining your passion or talent times a power of association. Who's on your team? Are you around people that are inspiring you, challenging you? Do you have people on your team who are strong where you are weak? And then times a taking action, which is a lot of the problem with a lot of people. They're too comfortable. They don't take action. They just dream a lot. And then, so that's passion plus talent times association times taking action. And it's all wrapped in faith, and faith in yourself, faith in what you're doing, faith that is needed and necessary, faith that you will succeed. And most people have a problem in the power of association. They don't have the right people in their life, and faith. In fact, most people that F this faith is fear, and that's what holds them back. They are their own worst enemy. And it's usually when you have the right people around you and you have a bad day, they won't let you stay there. So power of association, self-confidence, and faith go hand in hand.
And you mentioned working with children and younger people. How do you engender that sense of like faith and hope that it is possible that they can change their lives and they can go on a different route than perhaps their peers?
Well, one of the terms I talked to you about that we hear as youngsters is that we can't afford it. That is depressing. You want to turn off the lights and get under the covers. And so we probably have said that to our own children. And I go, take a moment, stop. Instead of saying we can't afford it, John, Mary, say, how can you afford it? And what that does is when you say, I can't afford it, shut your mind down. It's a statement. It's the end of discussion. When you say, how can we afford it? How can you afford it? It triggers that subconscious. It triggers your entrepreneurial spirit. And particularly children can get very creative on ways to make money. So allow them to get the money for what they want, as long as it's legal. And then celebrate with them that they've been able to achieve that. But the best reward is that in that process, you see a child who has set a goal, achieved it, celebrated, and the greatest benefit is that their self-confidence has gone up. And once a child knows that they can make money on their own, there's no stopping them.
Yeah, absolutely. When I gave the book to my students, there were some of them who really got on board and they read it, and they were 11 years old. The book itself has been around for so long and has kind of penetrated so many different countries, so many different cultures, all ages, and is still going. What do you think it is about what you wrote that is so timeless and can touch so many different people at different levels?
I love that question. Thank you, Michelle. Well, it has been over 27 years since we published it. And when I wrote it, I was determined to write it where we would take the complex subject of money and make it easy to understand. So that was the goal. I wrote as I speak so that people didn't get turned off by grammar or that type of thing. And it was also very important to me that it was simple. And so we really I continue to synthesize it down to simple principles and simple concepts that people could actually secure. And quite frankly, we never expected it to take off as a product in its own right. It was actually written as a brochure to promote the game behind you.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yes. I met Robert at a beta test of the game, and I had already built a global brand of talking children's books. And I loved the concept of the game. It was several years after I made my commitment to financial education, and the game taught the principles I wanted to teach. So I volunteered just as a friend to help him commercialize the game. And during that process, he told me he wanted to charge $200 for the game. And this was 1996. So that's pretty pricey. Maybe you should write a brochure that explains the philosophy that people can read, and then they're willing to invest the money in the game. And that's when he asked me to be his partner. And that brochure that we wrote together was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We never expected it to take off and have the impact that it had. And it was the first of 15 books we wrote together. And then another series I launched, Rich Dad Advisors. So it is, it certainly has hit the mark. And I'm very, very proud of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm very proud of the people. I'm more proud of the people who've read it and taken action in their lives. Because our mission statement at our company was to elevate the financial well-being of humanity, and I think that it has happened. So
it has. You have done that, and what an achievement! It's incredible. What a legacy to have in your life, and it's so big. I can't quite understand it. Can't quite comprehend it. And working with Robert. how was that? Because you've obviously come together with complementary skill sets, and you had your vision as well. So you've got your accountancy background. How did that tie in with his skill sets, and creating a joint vision from two different standpoints?
Well, we're definitely very different people in every aspect. But his background had been primarily in sales, and he had started an education company in Australia, Money and You, and he had just left that company, and he had this vision for the board game. So what we shared was a vision and a definite purpose to help people take control of their financial lives. When we first met, he had a couple of small apartment complexes, and he was earning $100,000 a year, and his living expenses were like $36,000. So he was financially free at $100,000 a year. That was the message I wanted the world to hear. People think, well, I have to have millions, but no, you don't. You need to pay attention to what your expenses are, and buy, build, and create assets. My favorite word on earth, Michelle, is assets. I say assets are sexy, and the older you get, the sexier they are. But the goal is you are financially free when the income from your assets exceeds your monthly expenses. That means that you will be able to live with it. If you get sick, can't get out of bed, you're not going to be harmed financially.
Yeah, well, obviously our audience who are listening or watching us today, they are either aspiring property investors, everyone in the real estate industry. Some people have already got their own portfolio, and they are looking to, for a lot of people, replace the day job, get out of the rat race, and some people have achieved that. They've bought back their time, and now they're going on to either bigger projects or passion projects, whatever that is. So we are kind of talking to the converted here, because the people who listen to us are already interested in real estate, property investing. So what would you say to people who today are coming into the current, world, like economic circumstances, with so much change, with everything to do with, from AI to government and everything else? How do they stay focused on these important principles when there's so much fear and there's so much going on, so much unknown, so much out of their control?
Well, I go back to the personal success equation. In fact, if they go to personalsuccessequation.com, they can get a download of an ebook, a workbook that I created for you to determine your own personal success equation. And remember that you got to know your numbers. I mean, in today's economic environment, it is a roller coaster. Interest rates are not where people want them to be, but there are still good deals out there. The issue is understanding the numbers and doing your due diligence. And the interest rates will come and go. Inflation comes and goes. So the issue is making sure that you make decisions based on the economic impact of each investment that will help you move forward, and keep the momentum of your money always forefront of your mind. Are you making money, or are you losing money?
So, Sharon, you talked about assets being your favorite word. Where does that fit into needing a diversification of assets across different types of industries? Do you think it's best to kind of just focus on one until you get a certain amount of income and then move on to another one? Or is it better to diversify across different assets?
Another great question. Most personal financial planners talk about diversification across paper assets, stocks, bonds, mutual funds. I teach diversification across asset categories. Asset categories include businesses, real estate, paper assets, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, intellectual property, taking what you know and sharing it in tangible form, commodities, right? All those things. And of course, now digital currency. And so it's best if there's a depression or a downturn in the market in one area, the other areas are there to protect you. So it's important to have diversification against all asset categories. Now, when it comes to definite purpose, and for instance, in real estate, I don't recommend people try to do 3-2 rentals, multifamily, commercial all at the same time. No.
Yeah.
Understand what you want to accomplish, focus on one way of doing it, and become an expert in that way. And then when you get really good at it, proficient, and you've achieved success as an authority, then you might want to look at another aspect of real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think that there needs to be a layering effect of having different incomes to protect, the income that you've got? Or is it a case of have one that works and then you can try another as a kind of, as a secondary income?
I'm not sure.
Do you think
Every type of income you have, you should protect in the corporate structure that you own it. So properties, if you have properties, each property should be protected in a corporation so that should something happen there, there's no access to your personal assets. So it's very important to create the legal structure to protect you, your family, and your future estate.
And for a lot of people listening, they might think, well, you cracked it earlier on, right? So the compound effect of what you've done must be incredible. Are there any kind of challenges that you've come across in terms of managing the assets you've got, or is it people might think I have a rose-tinted view of what it might be like to be in your position?
Well, I know a lot of very successful people, and not one of them would tell you success is a straight line. You have learning opportunities along the way. A lot of people say I make mistakes, and they feel like they've defined themselves by the mistakes they've made. But that's just a way for you to learn and not to repeat. Mistakes, adversity are occurrences, not definitions. So if something's happened to you, shake it off, learn from it, and keep moving forward, because the world of opportunity is there for you. But what happens when we have a mistake, it's like we put blinders on and we can't look up because we're so down. That fear, guilt, shame is holding us back. And the issue is to say, okay, I learned from that, and then we'll start looking up, get rid of the blinders, and the opportunities are out there for you. But the opportunities are outside your comfort zone. And that I challenge everyone. And if you're listening and you have a pad of paper, write this down. When was the last time you did something for the first time? I challenge people with that all the time, because that makes you step outside your comfort zone. And new associations are outside your comfort zone. New opportunities are outside your comfort zone. So challenge yourself to do new things all the time and expand your horizon, expand your associations, and expand your opportunities.
Can you think of a time where you have, had to pick yourself up and do something like that, to try something new?
Well, absolutely. When I made the decision to leave Rich Dad, I did not know what was in front of me. I thought Rich Dad was my legacy. And I was like, okay, well, now what? But if I had not made the decision to leave Rich Dad when I did, I wouldn't have gotten the call from President Bush. So I wouldn't have had the opportunity to serve on two U.S. presidents in financial literacy. And I certainly wouldn't have gotten the call in March of 2008 from the Napoleon Hill Foundation asking me to revitalize his teachings. So I share that with people. I say, sometimes you have to close a door in order for other doors to open. Had I not made that decision, I wouldn't have had those opportunities. And it's just been such a blessing. Somebody upstairs said, no, that Rich Dad's not your legacy. It's just a stepping stone. There's so much more for you to do. And so I challenge people all the time, is there a door in your life you need to close so other doors of opportunity will open?
And how different was it? Because if you've gone from thinking about working with children to working at the government level, how did you find that shift?
Well, part of me working at the government level was also impact children. So while we were there, we passed the Credit Card Act of 2009, which prohibited credit card companies from soliciting students on college campuses, which is how my son got in trouble. And so that was a huge one. I can't take credit for the bill, but I was definitely a squeaky wheel in the council. And so it's really, it's important for all of us to do what we can. One person can make a difference. And I tell everyone, what makes you mad? What makes you happy? Find your definite purpose and then go for it, because you can make a difference.
And how you're obviously keeping your finger on the pulse of everything that's happening, as things are evolving with AI and the changes in, it's sweeping across the world with that. Where do you see finances going forward? Do you see that there will be more of a split between the people who tap into this new world of AI and the people that don't? Or yeah, what how do you see kind of the next 5 to 10 years looking for society?
Well, AI is here to stay. So, you can put your head in the sand and let opportunities pass by you, or you can learn how to lasso it and use it for your benefit. What I see is a lot of people setting themselves up to get in trouble with AI. A book that is created through AI cannot be copyrighted. And there's companies out there saying that they will provide you a book in 5 days that and you own the copyright. It's just not true. You can't. The copyright is to protect your personal expression. You can use AI for research, certainly to get the ideas, but make it your own so that you can own the intellectual property. So there's a lot of litigation going on right now about the use of AI in certain areas. So it's a very fluid issue right now, but AI is definitely here to stay, and use it for research, use it to help you come up with new ideas and benefit from it, because it does, it's very fast and it has a lot of information, but you also need to check its accuracy and make sure that it's not plagiarizing somebody else.
Yeah, and obviously with students that are coming through the education system, there seems to be this disconnect between the real world of everything that they've got at their fingertips versus the traditional education system, where they are taught in ways that haven't really grown with and adapted over time. So how do you see the education system in terms of financial literacy? Do you think that they will be forced to change, or is it a case of actually children will just end up learning about financial literacy through social media?
I wish my answer could be different. But when I started this quest, there were only 5 states in the United States that required financial literacy for high school graduation. Now there's 26, which that's a big win, but we have 50 states. So we're still not where we need to be. And it doesn't matter what country I go to, what language people speak, their kids are not learning about money. And I have found, since I have been working with the education system for over 50 years, trying to get them to change, it's not an easy proposition. But that doesn't mean we can't keep going. And as parents, aunts, uncles, concerned adults that need to demand that their educational systems bring in financial literacy, the kids want it. The teachers even want it. It's usually the administrations that prevent it from coming in. So it's important for people just to start demanding it, but even more importantly, to make sure that young people in your life, your children, your nieces, your nephews, young adults that you care about, are provided the opportunity to learn about money so they get the skills to help create the financial life that they deserve.
Well, I can highly recommend getting the cash flow game, and that's a great place to start with young people as well, because they, will really enjoy learning through the games. And I've played it with my kids and nephews and etc. And
well, I also have a game that I produced called Thrive Time for Teens, and it was developed specifically for that ages 8 to 18. To teach them the importance of the decisions they're making, not just about money, but how they're spending their time. And so it's a lot of humor in it, and the kids absolutely love it. And it really is geared to things that they focus on and things that happen to them at their age group.
Great. Well, we will put some links to that in the show notes as well. So I think to wrap up, your latest book, Exit Rich, is more focused on businesses and that exit strategy. How important is it to have the exit in mind when you are starting a business?
Well, everybody's going to exit at some point their life. So part of the exit rich strategy is to understand what your ultimate goal is. How are you going to create generational wealth? And I talk to entrepreneurs all the time. When people want to go into business together, I go say, plan the divorce before you plan the marriage. And I say that because it's important while you're still both excited, brightness of future, you love each other. Say, well, if one of us decides we don't want to be in this gig anymore in 3 years, how are we going to separate? Because then you're going to use a lot more reason. I talk about high emotion is low intelligence. And so you want to make sure you deal with those things up front where everybody's still excited about the opportunity to work together. And it's really important, I think, when Exit Rich is written related to how to build not just a successful business, but a successful business, excuse me, that's sustainable, scalable, and saleable. You may not sell it, but you may also want to leave it to your kids. You don't want to leave something to them that's going to fall apart. You want to build something that has structure, has a foundation, has the right legal foundation. And so the book talks about the elements that are important in building a strong business. It talks about the people that you have. Do you have the right people in the right seats? Do you have the right mentors? Do you have the right advisors? Understanding your business processes, because there's a ton of value in your processes, because it's a lot easier to manage processes than it is to manage people. Then proprietary, that intellectual property, what makes you uniquely you? That again adds tremendous value to your company. And then patrons, your database. A lot of people today, Michelle, talk about they've got huge social media presence, and that's great, but that's not ownership. As many people have found and learned that Facebook can turn you off, right? So it's really important to, yes, have that huge social media presence, but invite them home to your database, because that database is tremendous value, is intellectual property. And then understand that you have your products and your services and you have your profits, but all those other aspects are what create the foundational value of your business and allows you to be scalable. And so whether you intend to sell or not, you still need to structure your business so you could sell if you needed to.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I think that's probably a good place to wrap up. Just finally to say, of course, we are both speaking at the Financial Freedom Summit in November. So the 7th, 8th and 9th of November. And it's absolutely incredible to be sharing the virtual stage with yourself as well. And, talking about financial literacy, talking about investments. And it's great to see that you are, just so passionate about so many different areas of this and still sharing your message with people. So what are you going to be sharing on the day?
Well, thank you, Michelle. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be an incredible event. So all of you watching and listening, if you've not registered for it, please do right away, because it's going to be they're curating incredible speakers all coming to share their ideas, their expertise. It's a great opportunity to just sit and absorb incredible information in the comfort of your own home or office. So make sure you sign up and come with us. And we're going to be talking about assets. That's a lot of people talk about passive income, cash flow. So we kind of made that popular through Rich Dad. But I want people to start focusing on assets, because they're the engines that create the passive income. They're the engines that create the cash flow. So let's focus on buying, building, creating income producing assets. We're going to be talking about that.
Fantastic. Well, also, I'll be talking about assets as well, how I built my portfolio through assets that generated the cash, which allowed me to leave the day job as well. So I'll be talking about creative strategies for building a portfolio and working with investors. So it's going to be an absolutely cracking day. As you said, lots of key speakers in the industry there as well. So everyone get registered. We'll put the link in the show notes for that as well. And that just leaves me to say thank you so much, Sharon, for being here today and giving us your time. It's been an absolute pleasure and an honor. And look forward to obviously seeing you on the virtual day in a couple of weeks' time.
I look forward to it as well, Michelle. Thank you for the opportunity. It's such a delight to get to know you.
Likewise. And for everyone who's listening, we do have all the links in the show notes for everything we've talked about today, as well as a free 30-day trial to the Your Property Network magazine. So click the link to find out more. Take care for now, guys. See you next time.